Hi there and welcome back or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Amy and I have an unhealthy obsession with Formula One. This weekend was the Monaco Grand Prix, so let's talk about it. First off, I just want to apologize for this video in advance. It is just a late weekend recap, not my normal thing. I didn't really have time to script a proper, fully fleshed out video because it is exam season. I did just finish my last essay like an hour ago, so this has been scripted in an hour. Keep that in mind. And also why the lighting is not great, because it is later in the day. Now, this video was going to be sort of a how can we improve on Monaco, because I was expecting it to be a snooze fest, as we all, usually do. But in my opinion, she delivered for once in her life. And I really enjoyed the racing this weekend. Sure, it might have been a Max Verstappen masterclass again in the end, but there were several other storylines that I want to cover. Okay, so first of all, let's talk qualifying. And it was surprisingly mostly clean. Emphasis on mostly. There were a few big names that kinda messed up. Mainly Sergio Perez, who crashed out in Q1, which is a bit surprising considering he has now been dubbed the king of the street tracks. But this is absolutely not helpful whatsoever if he even wants to stand a chance fighting his teammate for that world title. And yeah, going into a lot more traditional tracks, it's getting less and less likely. Again, this is probably one of the tracks he was most likely to win at when compared to Max. The second major mess-up of quali came from Ferrari. Are we surprised? No. And the fact that it affected Charles really just emphasizes this Monaco cast we all know and love. Basically, in Q3, Charles was going through the tunnel, Lando was behind him on a quick lap, and Ferrari didn't tell him. So, as a result, even though he qualified third, he started the race in 6th after receiving a 3-race grid penalty for impeding the McLaren driver. This did, however, mean that Esteban Ocon technically qualified in 3rd after an immaculate lap. Like, considering he's in that Alpine, and we have like 4 top teams, like above Alpine, it's really impressive that he was able to qualify 3rd. So I think that's because more so than at a lot of tracks, we really are able to see how Monaco ramps up throughout the qualifying session, getting quicker and quicker every single time somebody goes around. So very much you want to make sure you are one of the last, if not the last, driver to cross that line and start your final lap. And Max Verstappen kind of did just that. And again, in a lap that... Now, this is the part of the video where I sing Max Verstappen's praises for an obnoxious amount of time, so, feel free to skip if you're not here for that. Because that qualifying lap, truly incredible. The final sector, to be able to make up 3/10 in the shortest sector of that track, I think that is something that we are going to look back on and be like, that was one of the best laps of his career. Sorry, slight angle change because the sun is setting and I'm trying to get this done fast. In the race, he was able to hold on to those medium tires for as long as he did. Again, really impressive considering he was able to still maintain the gap to Fernando, who's on those hard tires, which in theory should have sped up. And again, Fernando closed that lap, but then Max somehow was just able to keep extending it. So again, really good job. And also for the Red Bull team to put him on the correct exact lap for changing those intermediate tires. Again, brilliant. And that combo of Max Verstappen and Red Bull is truly it's unstoppable at this point. He officially, after this weekend, has 39 wins in the book with Red Bull, which is one more than Sebastian Vettel, making him the winningest Red Bull driver in history, which is pretty impressive. So again, an incredible week for the Dutchman. You know who else had a brilliant weekend? Esteban bloody Ocon. Esty Bestie on the podium. In Monaco podium, in what is essentially the closest thing that he and Alpine have to a home race this season with no French Grand Prix. And considering Monaco is a track where the driver's sort of known to make a difference, I really did not see this one coming from Ocon. Not that he's a bad driver, but it's the caliber we have at the front is insane. Anyway, speaking of, he might be the only midfield driver we see on a podium this season, considering last year we only really had Lando Norris in another chaotic race. Yeah, and this year we have 4 top teams. Red Bull's even more dominant than before. The chance of us seeing another midfield driver par like a messy, chaotic, rain-filled, insane race is pretty unlikely, so good job, bestie. Again, him and Alpine did really well with the strategy to stay ahead of Carlos Sainz in the earlier stages and the 2 Mercedes in the later stages of the race. So Aston Martin had some exciting news this weekend, announcing that they will be partnering with Honda as a works engine provider from 2026. Now, this is just like another step in their plan towards becoming a championship fighting car, and it's really exciting considering that Honda is technically still powering Red Bull. I know they're called Red Bull power engines, but that's still Honda's engine, and they're the quickest car, easily, obviously, right? So this is really big for Aston Martin to be able to sign them. Let's just hope the man, the myth, the legend, Fernando Alonso is still driving for them by 2026, even though he'll be like 44 at the time. But it's Fernando. He can do anything at this point. So, and this weekend he put in another great drive to finish second, despite that little strategy blunder from the team. And in my opinion, if he didn't pit for those second set of slick tyres, then he would have been fighting with Max for that win near the end. Because the gap by the end of the race was like 20-something seconds, which is about the length of a pit stop at Monaco. I'm not saying he would have won, he probably wouldn't, but we would have had a fight on our hands, and that would have been exciting. Speaking of strategy blunders, let's move on to Ferrari. That's it, just Ferrari. Last year when I did these weekend recaps regularly, I had a little segment called How Did Ferrari F Up This Week? I feel like that is kind of fitting. So obviously we had the Charles Leclerc incident in qualifying, which put him back. And then in the race, they didn't do so well with Sainz's tyre strategy. We all heard him complaining on the radio. And then when it came time to switch to intermediate tyres, they had to double stack, which really shouldn't have happened. They had enough positions between them at the start of the race. If they got the strategy right, then it would have been okay. But that's Ferrari. Overall, not a great weekend for the Scuderia. But you want to know who had at least a decent weekend? Both Mercedes and McLaren, which I was really surprised at. Mercedes obviously bringing all these new upgrades, and I think they can be pretty happy with them. I know we're probably not going to see the full potential till Spain, but from what we sort of gathered, I think they should be working pretty well. So we'll see this weekend, but yeah, they should be pretty happy with this weekend. And same with McLaren. I don't think McLaren, both cars in the points, pretty impressive. And again, something they can be really happy with, especially at Monaco. Although I do think Lando could have definitely qualified higher and therefore finished higher. Considering the pace he had through some of the qualifying sessions as well as practice, he definitely could have qualified 6th, maybe. That's why I reckon I would put him about 6th. If he didn't have that little touch with the barrier in Q2, obviously, basically rendering his car slightly slower in the final part of qualifying. But yeah, still really good for them. I think the final thing I want to talk about is the thing that actually made Monaco interesting, and that was the rain. Now, I know in the past, they've just called, oh, it's going to rain in a couple of laps, and it makes you think Monaco's going to rain and make it more exciting, but this year, it actually did rain. And yeah, that's truly what actually made it interesting, otherwise, ugh. So hey, maybe Bernie was onto something with those sprinklers to add a little pizzazz to the race. I wouldn't complain. I'm kidding, I totally would complain. That's don't do that, no. It did look incredibly slippery on track with several drivers coming off at different points. We didn't see any major shunts, a couple of people just going off where you could go off in Monaco, which is not very many places, and slightly brushing the wall. Only 2 retirements in the end, which again, nothing for Monaco, no safety cars, no red flags, nothing of the sort. So the spice was added through the pit stop strategies, which I love. This strategy is one of the major reasons I geek out on Formula 1. So I was happy girly. Indeed. Anyway, I apologize for this massive rant of a video. But that brings it to a wrap. Comment down below if you enjoyed the Monaco Grand Prix as much as I did. Also, let me know if you tuned into the Indy 500 as well, because I did both. So yeah, like the video if you liked it. It really helps me out a lot. And hit the red button to subscribe for more F1 and motorsport related content. And I will see you all in the next one. Laters!